You wouldn't believe what I've seen in 15 years of medicine. I've held trembling hands in emergency rooms, listened to the slow cracking of hearts in clinic chairs, and watched lab numbers that once shouted danger soften into whispers, all because someone made one simple change. And sometimes, that change was no louder than the sound of a kettle boiling on the stove. I once treated a man named Richard. 71, retired postman, big-hearted and quiet. He came in with swollen ankles and fasting glucose so high it scared even the nurses. He was on 3 blood pressure medications, insulin, and barely had energy to walk from the waiting room to my office. His wife, Marlene, held his arm like it might vanish if she let go. "He's fading," she whispered to me, tears stuck in the corners of her voice. We talked. We changed his meds, yes, but something else happened too. I mentioned a certain herbal tea, casually at first, almost as a footnote. Cinnamon. 1 glass in the morning, every day. A week later, Richard called the clinic, sounding brighter. "Doc, I think something's working." A month later, he'd lost 6 pounds. 2 months in, he walked the dog by himself. By spring, he'd stopped taking insulin altogether. That's not a miracle. That's biology remembering how to breathe again. You see, the body is never trying to break. It's always trying to speak. High blood sugar is the voice of a pancreas overworked. Belly fat is a cry from the liver, pleading for less inflammation. A tired heart isn't lazy, it's burdened. And sometimes, the gentlest things, herbs, roots, flowers steeped in hot water, can begin to lift that burden. Let me ask you something. When did we stop believing in the quiet powers of nature? When did we trade in the wisdom of leaves and roots for the clatter of pills and prescriptions? Don't get me wrong, medications save lives. But so can a warm glass held between trembling hands at dawn. Especially when that glass contains something like cinnamon, rosemary, or mulberry leaf. And I don't say that lightly. Because what we now know is that compounds in cinnamon, like cinnamaldehyde and polyphenol, mimic insulin in the body. They help glucose slip gently into your cells, where it belongs, instead of crashing around your bloodstream, damaging vessels and nerves like a drunk bull in a glass shop. One study in the Diabetes Care Journal showed that just 1 to 6 grams of cinnamon a day significantly reduced fasting blood sugar. That's less than a teaspoon. But the story doesn't end with glucose. Cinnamon also reduces visceral fat, the deep kind that wraps around your liver and suffocates your organs. And it lowers LDL cholesterol while gently raising HDL. It's like a whisper to your arteries, "You're safe now. You can relax." Now imagine what happens when you pair that with hibiscus, a crimson flower used for centuries in Africa and the Middle East. Rich in anthocyanins, hibiscus tea helps lower blood pressure, sometimes as effectively as ACE inhibitors. That's not folklore. That's been shown in controlled trials. And yet, it tastes like a summer breeze, tart, cooling, alive. One of my older patients, Gloria, 68, told me hibiscus was the only thing that made her feel truly clean inside. Her words, not mine. But I believe her. Because when the kidneys flush more efficiently, and the blood vessels stop constricting out of fear, the whole body begins to sing a different tune. And that song isn't one of decline, it's one of resilience. Have you ever noticed how the smallest things in nature often hold the most concentrated power? A pinch of clove. A sliver of turmeric root. A sprig of rosemary. These aren't just seasonings, they're ancient medicines. When brewed as teas or infused into warm tonics, they become gentle regulators of inflammation, blood sugar, even stress hormones like cortisol. And let's talk about cortisol for a moment, because it's a silent villain in the aging process. Elevated cortisol steals sleep, raises blood pressure, spikes glucose, and drains the immune system. But guess what counters it beautifully? Chamomile. Not a sedative, but a soft reset button for your nervous system. A warm cup before bed signals your adrenals, you can rest now. And when cortisol drops, healing begins. Sleep isn't just rest. It's repair. And without it, nothing else works. Your insulin gets sluggish, your muscles ache more, your brain forgets names it once loved. So when I see a patient choosing chamomile over a sleeping pill, I see someone giving their body a chance to heal the way it was designed to, gently, thoroughly, profoundly. That's the thread running through all of this. Gentleness. Not weakness, but deep strength, the kind that doesn't shout. Think of your heart. That muscle has beaten over 2 billion times by the time you reach 70. It doesn't need punishment. It needs kindness. It needs support. And herbs like garlic, lemon, and green tea offer just that. Garlic, especially when simmered in warm water with lemon and a touch of honey, becomes a vasodilator, a substance that widens your arteries and helps blood flow like a clear mountain stream. That's a gift for someone whose vessels have stiffened over the years. It lowers systolic blood pressure, eases the workload on the heart, and supports healthy cholesterol. Lemon, for its part, brings not just vitamin C but bioflavonoids, compounds that support the endothelial lining of blood vessels. Think of them as armor plating for your arteries. Together, garlic and lemon cleanse, protect, and restore. Not with force, but with faithfulness. A glass a day. A ritual. A reason to hope. Now I can almost hear someone thinking, "Doctor, this sounds lovely, but can a few teas really do all that?" And I get it. We've been trained to think health has to hurt. That it comes from struggle, sweat, side effects. But I'm telling you the truth, and I've watched it unfold in dozens of lives. Sometimes, the quietest interventions are the most powerful. Because when your liver is less inflamed, your belly fat recedes. When your blood vessels are relaxed, your heart beats easier. When your blood sugar is stable, your energy returns. And when your stress hormones settle, you sleep again like you used to, deep, undisturbed, whole. So if you're waking up with swollen ankles, or your fasting glucose hovers in the 120s, or your waistline has slowly grown despite your best efforts, don't give up. Don't assume it's just old age. It's not. These are signs. Invitations. Your body asking you, softly, insistently, to change course. To try something new. Or rather, something old. A single glass. One each morning. Cinnamon with a splash of lemon. Or rosemary steeped for 5 minutes. Or mulberry leaf, so underrated but so effective at reducing post-meal glucose spikes. You don't need to drink them all. You just need to choose one. Make it a ritual. Let it work. Because what we're doing here isn't just lowering numbers on a lab report. We're restoring dignity. We're telling your cells, you are not abandoned. You are cared for. You are remembered. I had a patient once named Evelyn. 84 years old, widow, sharp as a tack but frail in body. She came to me not because of a crisis, but because of a quiet unraveling. "Doctor," she said, "I don't feel like myself anymore. My legs are weak. My stomach's bloated. I wake up tired. I eat well, I think, but something's slipping." Her labs showed prediabetes, elevated triglycerides, and early signs of fatty liver. She wasn't in danger, not yet. But the slope was slick. That's how these things often begin, not with explosions, but with quiet erosion. The body doesn't collapse overnight. It whispers. The question is, will we listen? I asked Evelyn to start her mornings with one glass. Just one. Mulberry leaf tea. Because mulberry contains DNJ, 1-deoxynogeremicin, a natural inhibitor of carbohydrate absorption. It gently slows glucose from flooding the bloodstream after meals. No spikes. No crashes. Just steadiness. Balance. 3 weeks later, Evelyn was walking more. The puffiness in her hands gone. She was reading in the mornings again, writing letters. "I don't know if it's the tea," she said, laughing, "but I feel more myself." I knew the truth, it wasn't just the tea. It was her reclaiming her own rhythm. That small act, repeated daily, gave her body permission to recover. And isn't that what aging really is? Not a falling apart, but a remembering. A return. A homecoming to simplicity, balance, care. And nature offers tools for that journey, tools like turmeric and black pepper, one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory duos we know. Turmeric, with its golden hue and earthy scent, contains curcumin, a compound so potent it rivals some pharmaceutical drugs in its ability to reduce inflammation. But without black pepper, most of it slips right through us. That's why combining the two is critical. Piperine, found in black pepper, increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. Together, they don't just ease joint pain or reduce swelling. They soothe the immune system itself, quieting the background fires that drive insulin resistance, heart disease, and brain fog. I've seen patients reduce their CRP levels, the marker of chronic inflammation, by half within 2 months of sipping turmeric tea daily. And inflammation, make no mistake, is the uninvited guest at every chronic disease table. Whether it's diabetes, dementia, or heart failure, inflammation is there, fanning the flames. But these natural allies, turmeric, ginger, sage, are like water on those flames. And that changes everything. Sage, for instance, is more than just a culinary herb. In tea form, it gently sharpens the mind, balances hormones, and improves insulin sensitivity. And ginger? It warms the gut, stirs circulation, and supports metabolic health from the inside out. I've seen it ease nausea in chemo patients, soothe arthritis in the elderly, and rekindle appetite in the depressed. And then there's rosemary, fragrant, piney, quietly powerful. It improves circulation, yes, but more than that, it nourishes the brain. Its compounds, carnosic acid and rosmarinic acid, protect neurons from oxidative stress, the very process that leads to memory loss and cognitive decline. 1 cup a day. That's all it takes. There's a reason ancient Greek students wore rosemary in their hair during exams. For remembrance, they said. And we've forgotten that wisdom. We dismiss these herbs as old wives' tales, as kitchen lore. But they are more than that. They are molecular medicine. And they work gently, steadily, faithfully. Even something as humble as horsetail, yes, that slender wild plant near the streams, is a powerhouse. It's rich in silica, which strengthens bones, hair, skin, and nails. But more than that, horsetail is a diuretic. It helps remove excess fluid without robbing your body of vital potassium. That means reduced blood pressure, lighter legs, and easier breathing. Do you know how many seniors live with undiagnosed fluid retention? They think it's just aging. They say, my legs feel heavy, or my shoes don't fit in the afternoon. That's not just time. That's biology asking for relief. And horsetail offers it, without side effects, without fear. I'm not saying any of these are miracles. I'm saying they are tools. Tools that allow your body to begin again. To remember health. And when used consistently, with intention, with love, they change the terrain inside you. Because when your blood sugar is balanced, your mind becomes sharper. When inflammation quiets, your joints move freely. When your liver is supported, your belly flattens. And when your heart feels less burdened, even your emotions begin to lift. Yes, even your emotions. Because the body doesn't exist in pieces. It is a symphony. Your liver speaks to your brain. Your gut speaks to your mood. Your blood sugar affects your dreams. And that's why a simple habit like sipping a glass of lemon ginger tea in the morning or cinnamon tea at night isn't just about lowering glucose, it's about harmony. It's about dignity. We don't talk enough about dignity in medicine. We talk about survival. About metrics. But not about the moment a woman over 70 wakes up with clear eyes for the first time in years. Not about the man who can bend down to tie his shoes without gasping. These moments matter. They are health made visible. And they often begin with a choice. A glass. A moment of care. So if you've been told there's nothing more to do, that your A1C will only rise, that your belly fat is just a fact of life, I want you to hear me clearly, that is not the whole story. Your body is not done healing. It's waiting. Waiting for consistency. For support. For gentleness. For one glass. Each morning. Chosen with care. Taken with intention. The thing about these teas, the rosemary, the mulberry leaf, the turmeric, the cinnamon, is that they ask you to slow down. To boil water. To steep. To sit. To taste. That's not just a ritual. That's medicine too. Because healing doesn't only happen in the bloodstream. It happens in the nervous system, when it finally feels safe. When the body realizes it's being listened to. That it matters. You matter. Your mornings matter. Your heart matters. And that glass in your hand, it might seem small. But inside it are centuries of wisdom. Leaves and roots chosen by hands older than time. Healing passed from grandmother to grandchild. And now, to you. Years ago, I sat at the bedside of a man who had just survived a heart attack. He was 76, eyes still glassy from the trauma, voice quiet but steady. His hands trembled as he reached for his water, and he looked up at me and said, "I thought I had more time." That line has stayed with me. Because that's what most people think, until something forces them to see time differently. A diagnosis. A collapse. A number on a lab report that no longer makes sense. But here's the truth, spoken plainly, from my years of medicine and the ache of human stories that never leave you: time doesn't wait. And health, once lost, is hard won back. Yet still, unbelievably, the body will try. Even at 60. Even at 80. Even if it's tired, swollen, worn thin by years of stress or sugar or sorrow, it will try. All it needs is a chance. That's what these teas, these simple daily rituals, give you. A chance. A breath. A way to tell your cells, we're not done yet. A way to whisper to your blood sugar, let's steady. To your heart, let's soften. To your belly, let's heal. And I know, when you hear that cinnamon can act like insulin, that turmeric can lower inflammation, that mulberry leaf or hibiscus can ease blood pressure or belly fat, it might sound too gentle to matter. But I've watched bodies turn around on less. I've watched patients like Evelyn regain color in their cheeks. I've seen Richard come off medications not because he gave up, but because his numbers improved so much, he didn't need them anymore. And I've watched lonely morning routines, boiling water, steeping leaves, turn into acts of empowerment. A cup of chamomile at night becomes a bridge to better sleep, which stabilizes cortisol, which eases hunger, which lowers blood sugar, which lifts mood, which improves energy, which inspires movement, which rebuilds muscle, which fuels circulation, which protects the heart. A cascade. One small habit, the right one, can create that. And let me tell you something sacred: there is nothing weak about aging. There is nothing frail about deciding, at 68, or 73, or even 89, that you are worthy of health. That you are not disposable. That your mornings still matter. That your body, even now, deserves care. That your life still holds purpose. We live in a culture that whispers to the elderly, sit down. Step aside. You've had your time. But medicine, real medicine, should say the opposite: rise up. You still matter. Let's protect what's left. Let's restore what we can. Let's honor this temple you live in. That's why I still do this work. That's why I keep sharing these remedies, these truths. Because someone watching this right now has a heart that's tired, a pancreas that's struggling, legs that ache, a belly they hide in shame, and they believe there's nothing left to do. But that's a lie. The truth is, one glass can change things. One small daily act, done with reverence, can shift your metabolism, your hormones, your mind. A mug of hot water, steeped with cinnamon, can become your protest against decline. Your quiet revolution. And maybe it's not just cinnamon for you. Maybe it's rosemary for memory. Or hibiscus for your blood pressure. Maybe it's lemon ginger for the digestion that's slowed down. Or insulin leaf, yes, that miraculous plant that mimics your body's own insulin, to calm the roller coaster of post-meal crashes. It doesn't matter which one you choose. What matters is that you choose. And what matters more is that you believe this: you are not broken. You are rebuilding. Every glass you drink, every walk you take, every deep sleep you reclaim, these are not small things. They are sacred. Let me tell you one last story. Her name was Beatrice. 92. She lived alone but insisted on planting her own tomatoes every spring. Her hands were knotted with arthritis, but her eyes were bright. She had a tea cabinet that would put most clinics to shame. Sage, turmeric, clove, chamomile. Each one does something, she told me. They're my army. She lived another 5 years. Never had diabetes. Her blood pressure stayed normal. Her memory sharp. When she passed, her niece told me, she left her body like someone folding up a well-used quilt. Softly. Completely. With grace. That's the kind of aging we should all be aiming for. Not just years, but dignity. Not just survival, but vitality. Not just prescriptions, but participation. In your own care. In your own healing. And it can begin with one glass. 1. So tomorrow morning, when the world is still and the sky is just beginning to change, I want you to do something. I want you to choose a tea. Cinnamon. Turmeric. Mulberry leaf. Whatever calls to you. Boil the water. Steep it slowly. Sit down. And drink. Not like it's a task. But like it's a ceremony. Because it is. And as you sip it, I want you to remember something vital: your body is listening. Every drop is a message. And that message is simple, powerful, unforgettable. I am not done. I am healing. I am alive. If this message stirred something in you, if you're ready to treat your body with the care it's long been asking for, then take that first step with us. Tap subscribe to that honors aging as a powerful, beautiful chapter. Not a decline, but a return to strength, wisdom, and healing. Click like if this spoke to your heart. Share your journey in the comments. Your story may be the light someone else needs. And if you know someone quietly struggling, gently send this to them. Because healing doesn't happen alone. It begins with one glass. And continues, together. One small step at a time, toward a life you're proud to live.